mainly directed at the ladies. All right, how many of you would like to get married at some point in your life? Yes, see some hands. All right, good, very good. All right, this husband of yours, this dream husband, how would you like him to treat you? Would you like him to give you money? Buy you presents all the time? And most importantly, make you the sole purpose of his existence? Yes, these are all great things. This is describing the Victorian gentleman, and more importantly, Mr. Pontellier. All right, here's some pictures of the average Victorian gentleman. As you can see, they're very classy. They're very, very classy. And a writer, John Ruskin, would write, it is what the word he says, and that he comes from pure genes and is perfectly bred. After that, gentleness and sympathy, or kind disposition and a fine imagination, make a gentleman. Ruskin also maintained that gentlemen have to learn that it is no part of their duty of privilege to live on other people's toil, and this is going to come into play later in the presentation. Other words that describe a gentleman are honor, loyalty, intelligence, moral uprightness, and most importantly, a good income. So, all right, today we're going to cover what is a gentleman. We already checked that off the list. How Chopin describes Léonce Pontellier, Edna's thoughts on her husband, other noticeable thoughts about Mr. Pontellier, how Léonce treats Edna. Then we're going to attack Mr. Pontellier for being a bad husband, and then defend him for being a good husband. And then we're going to draw to a conclusion, and I'm going to tell you what I think about Mr. Pontellier. All right, here's a brief description of Mr. Pontellier. Mr. Pontellier wore eyeglasses. He was a man of 40, medium height and rather slender build. He stooped a little bit. His hair was brown and straight, parted on one side. His beard was neatly and closely trimmed. This comes from page 1. And so this is the perfect picture of your average Victorian gentleman right here, Mr. Pontellier. And so this is when Raoul gets sick in the very beginning of the book, and Mr. Pontellier, Edna, Raoul has a fever to go check on him, and Edna doesn't want to. She kind of throws one of those child tantrums, and no, I'm not getting up. She's convinced herself that Raoul does not have a fever. And then this frustrates Mr. Pontellier. He himself had his hands full of the brokerage business. He could not be in two places at once, making a living for his family on the street and staying home to see that no harm befell them. And this comes back to gentlemen have to learn that it is no part of their duty or privilege to live on other people's toil. So Mr. Pontellier, his sole purpose for his family was to provide finances and to care for them. He can't do both things. He can't take care of his family at home and make a good income. So, and he clearly chose to make a good income. All right, Edna's thoughts. After the Klein Club at the very beginning, Mr. Pontellier gave his wife half the money, which he had brought away from Klein's hotel the evening before. She liked money as well as most women and accepted it with no little satisfaction. This, Léonce tries to please Edna in the usual way by giving her money, just simple treats and stuff like that. And this is when she just kind of takes it without being grateful for it. And this is where he, so Edna doesn't respond to these gifts as most people would, because she's looking for something more in the relationship, in their marriage. And Mr. Pontellier doesn't know that because he hardly ever talks to his wife Edna. And then, here, take this umbrella, she exclaimed, holding it out to him. He accepted it. He accepted the sunshade and lifted it out over his head and ascended the steps and walked away. So here, they don't really have a good relationship. She kind of does what's necessary, what's needed of her, and this is before her awakening, you realize. So she's kind of still helping out. She still cares a little bit about her image and her family, but not for long. All right. Coming back to dinner, his wife called after him. He halted a moment and shrugged his shoulders. He felt his vest pocket. There was a $10 bill there. He did not know. Perhaps he would return for the early dinner, perhaps he would not. It all depended on the company he found over at Klein's and the size of the gang. He didn't know what to say this, but she understood and laughed, nodding goodbye to him. So he did not want to say this because he wants to come back for dinner. It all just depends. You know, maybe he loses out. He loses all the money. He comes back for an early dinner. Maybe he's winning a lot of money. See, you notice how after he comes back from Klein's, he gives half of it to Edna. So he's just trying to, again, please Edna. He's doing all this to please Edna. And I find that to be very important. All right, all other noticeable thoughts. And the ladies, selecting with dainty, discriminating fingers and a little greedily, all declare that Mr. Pontellier was the best husband in the world. So they, this is when Mr. Pontellier gives Edna all the treats and the bonbons and the exotic fruit and wines from New Orleans. Everyone's like, wow, you have the best husband in the world. Edna, this is great. You're so lucky. So Mr. Pontellier was really loved by all of his surrounding peers, just as average Victorian gentlemen would be. Mr. Pontellier was a great favorite, and ladies, men, even nurses, were always on hand to say goodbye to him. This is I kind of see him with his whole train, the paparazzi following him. Mr. Pontellier, I see ya. The guy's a popular guy. He has everything he could want. And, all right, this is when Edna is out in the hammock. She falls asleep after Robert Lebrun leaves. And Mr. Pontellier comes out. It's 11 o'clock at night. Mr. Pontellier goes, Edna, are you coming in soon? He asked again, this time more fondly. He's being soft with her. He's being gentle. No, I'm going to stay out here. This is folly, he blurted out. I can't permit you to stay out here all night. You must come in this house instantly. So the end makes him look, makes Leonce look like a bad guy. It's like, wow, how could he be so insensitive to his wife? We're clear in the beginning. I mean, he's getting frustrated with her. This is hard. He mentions later in the book that he gets frustrated. He has a short temper, but he tries to control it the best he can around Edna. All right, so Edna's marriage, she describes out that her marriage was a complete accident, that Edna never agrees, Edna never supports marriages. Edna thinks that they're some crazy masquerade. And so what Edna thought when she was getting married, she thought that she'd get someone like this. That's what she thought her marriage would be like. You know, perfect, rich, handsome. What else could a lady want? Or maybe even this. But no, Edna got that.
Lovely.
Yes, so two complete opposites. Yes, as I was saying, her marriage to Leonce Pontellier was purely an accident, in this respect resembling many other marriages which masquerade as the decrees of fate. So pretty much what Edna's saying is that there's no true love out there, that people are only in it for money and other personal needs. That's pretty rough, that's pretty harsh. I mean, masquerade as the decrees of fate. We're true love, we're going to be here forever, we love each other, we're inseparable. Mr. Pontellier thinks differently of marriage, but Edna, she sees it how it is. I mean, she's there by accident. She is married to this man by accident. All right, Leonce Pontellier, this is when we attack him. He treats Edna like a piece of property. He hardly ever wants to talk to Edna about herself and make small talk with her. He never really gets to know her. He looks down on his wife, and there's no passion in the marriage. This is when Edna and Robert Lebrun come back from the beach, and very beginning of the book. You are burnt beyond recognition, he added, looking at his wife, as one looks at a valuable piece of property which has suffered some damage. This is pretty degrading. I mean, back in the slave days, slaves were property. He's treating her like property. He doesn't want any harm to come to it, just like if I had a computer I wanted to be broken, but this is how he looks at her, which is very degrading, and this is one of the things that is wrong with Leonce. He loves her, but not as a human being. He treats her like property, as in, like something to make him look better. Mr. Pontillier returned to his wife the information that Raoul had a high fever and needed looking after. When I read this, I pictured Mr. Pontillier coming in and saying, Edna, Raoul has a fever, get to it. Kind of like that. It's very snooty, as in, I can't take care of this, you have to. I can't do this, you must, it is your job to do this. And this is where we see some of this talking down to Edna. And this is when Edna talks about her marriage with Leon's. She grew fond of her husband, realizing with some unaccountable satisfaction that no trace of passion or excessive and fictitious warmth colored her affection. So this is a cold marriage. This is dry. No passion whatsoever. And I can't necessarily blame only Leonce for this, but because it takes two to tango. But still, that's half the problem right there is Leonce Pontillier. I know we're going to defend him. Leonce's only worries in life are his wife and his children. That's all he worries about. And some people say he might worry about money too much. That's because he's trying to support his family. He's trying to make them live a good life. And then when he consults Dr. Mandalay for help, he admits, I'm worried. I'm worried about my wife. This is unnatural for her. I want you to help. Instead of ignoring it. Something like that. He tries not to be rude to his wife, but he can't help it. He admits to Dr. Mandalay he has a short temper. And he says Edna doesn't help that at all. And he's extremely devoted to his wife. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. As the devoted wife of a man who worshipped her, Leonce worships his wife Edna. And I found that to be very important. I mean, what else could you ask for? A partner who worships you. They want to do everything just for you. He pleased her. His absolute devotion flattered her. And I looked up absolute devotion and masquerade in the dictionary. Absolute, a value or principle regarding as universally valid or viewed without relation to other things. Without relation to other things. Edna is the only part of Leonce's life that he cares about. That is it. Then devotion. Love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause, or religious worship. He is worshiping his wife. This is very important in defending Leonce Pontillier because, I mean, how can you not say that he's a good husband when he's absolutely devoted to her? And then, I don't like it. I feel a bit worried over it. It's kind of when he starts breaking down and says, look, Dr. Mandalay, I'm worried about my wife. I think she's sick. And then in conclusion, I personally believe that Leonce Pontillier is a good husband, solely based off of his absolute devotion to his wife. And at the time, you didn't see men caring and getting to actually know their wives. This was an average marriage at the time, which I believe why Chopin wrote it, because she said this is a big problem. So Leonce Pontillier, if he would have known that he's, man, wow, maybe I should talk to her for a little bit. He didn't. He knew, he tried to fix his marriage the only way he knew possible, which is through presents and gifts and other means. So, in that conclusion, I believe that Leonce Pontillier is a good husband. Here's my table of contents. I covered this, but my aspect